Hello again. Well, we made it. Video 2, exciting times. Firstly, thank you very much to all the people who subscribed, have been messaging me and have liked my previous video. It means a lot and I'm really excited to see where this goes. The most important thing to me though is the fact that a few people have messaged me and said that the video has actually made them want to do a bit more exercise or get their lifestyle in gear, and genuinely that is what I made this channel about, and if it's already doing that, fantastic. Now, a couple of things. Firstly, to John Large, I have indeed taken the batteries out of the big Darth Vader clock, so there is no ticking. And secondly, this video will be to answer a question from Mr. Mark, aka Pigeon, and this video will be about diet and my diet, my views on diets. As I said, still a bit of a dirty word, but it's necessary. Now, as I said before in my previous video, the diet has really got to be the cornerstone to any healthy lifestyle, to any weight loss, or just to any healthy living realistically. And I think in this day and age it is so easy to slip into bad habits just because of marketing these days, the actual prices of food that is bad for you, and just generally like social leanings towards things as well. It's not so long ago that actually eating healthily and things is something that a lot of people poke fun at, and it still is kind of recovering from that. I mean, personally, I was quite surprised in terms of how different countries deal with this when I recently went to see my friend Oliver Adams and Guro Striando Pienchen Tank in Norway. And in Norway, it's completely the opposite. Unhealthy food is really heavily taxed, and healthy food is given a bit more leeway, so it's a lot cheaper and a lot easier to eat healthily. But aside from that, we're talking about how me and you can potentially get our diet on track and start leveling things off. So, square one. For me, and I'm going to talk about how my diet works and how it's working and evolving at the moment. So it's not going to be you need to eat these things. It's a loose framework that can build on, and I think it's the fact that it's quite forgiving means it's quite easy to stick to, and if it's easy to stick to, it becomes a lifestyle rather than a diet. And literally all I did when I started is I got a food diary app, and food diary apps are really easy to get hold of, and if for whatever reason you're like Daniel Godfrey and you haven't got a smartphone or access to a computer that has apps on it, you could do it manually. It'd be a bit more of a pain, but it'd still be well worth it, because what that does is not necessarily about heavily scrutinising your calories, even though that's a key point, and I will come back to that later on. But what it does for me is it makes me account for all the food I've eaten. The me before, I walk downstairs, and just because I was downstairs, I'd be near the kitchen. So I'd pop in and maybe have a rummage through the cupboard. I'd find a biscuit or something like that, and I'd kind of unconsciously almost shovel that biscuit in, and then wander off and pretty much forget about it. Whereas if you have an app or a book or something you have to fill in, you actually have to look at that, and it's not just once when you enter it, it's when you put some more food in later on, you will remember, oh, actually I've had these 6 biscuits. Oh, that's not so good. Maybe I'll ease off because I've already eaten quite a bit today. Not saying 6 biscuits is a massive meal, don't get me wrong. Literally all I did is I set my calorie intake for the day on my app to 2,500 calories. Now that's average intake for a male, and it's not something that left me feeling hungry or anything like that. I mean, if you're cutting down from being on a massively bad for you diet, in fairness, like I was at the beginning, there will be an element of hunger, because when you're used to eating massive meals where portion sizes are all wrong, your stomach stretches and you get used to having those big meals. So when you have a smaller meal, you still feel hungry afterwards, and it's not because you need the food, it's just because you're used to having that amount. And there are ways around that. I mean, bulking out your food with low calorie things, or making sure you intake a lot of water, which is fantastic on two fronts, because keeping hydrated helps everything. It helps your cognitive abilities, it helps your actual digestion, it helps you just generally function as a human being. So water, happy days. And having that limit automatically makes you think about what you're taking in and what you are going to eat. Because instead of just shoveling in and not thinking about it, you kind of go, oh, well, I've got this limit to work at. I've already had 50% of it. I'm not gonna snack, because I'm gonna have a fish and chips later. I'm gonna have like a big tea. And that's fine, because you're not going to go over your calorie count, because you know roughly what you're going to have. And it helps you manage. Likewise, away from actual meal times as well, it completely changed the way I snacked. Because rather than just shoveling a biscuit, which you can very quickly do, likewise with chocolate bars and things like that, they're all quite small and they're all just easily shovelable. But they're high in calories. Whereas what I was finding I was doing instead, I was maybe getting a bit hungry in the lunch to tea time in the early days, and I found I wanted a snack. So instead I was maybe having a poached egg on toast, mainly because I love poached egg on toast. But it's about the same calories as about 3 biscuits. But it felt like an additional meal in between, and it genuinely kept me a lot fuller for longer. So just by keeping this food diary, you'll find that you eat healthier anyway, because you want to have that intake, and it's the only way you can get that intake without going over. Likewise, opposed to other like more harsh diets, when they go, right, well, day 1, 7 chives and a piece of kale. After 3 weeks of 7 chives and a piece of kale, yeah, you will have lost weight, but you will be craving so much different things that you've cut out, and you do seriously have like cravings for a lot of fast food and unhealthy for you food that you're used to. And the way I did that is with the diary. If you want to, you can have like a really lean morning and lunchtime, and then have something bad for you at night. Realistically, it's not fantastic for you in terms of saturated fat and all that kind of stuff. However, if it's making you eat a lot healthier than you were before, ultimately it's a big win, because you can eat the stuff that's bad for you and still be at the right side of your calorie count and slide down. And basically, if you can do that in a diet, you're going to lose weight. And it's not even if you're not exercising, if you can stay under your deficit. Now, basically, even when you're sitting still, you're using calories to maintain your muscle mass, to actually just survive, pump heart, lungs, all that kind of MacGuffins. And you're naturally going to burn a certain amount of calories in a day doing that. Now, that calories on the apps, it'll be able to calculate it out from height and weight and things like that. And likewise, any activities you happen to do in the day, even if it comes down to walking to the shop or biking to work and back, you can log that, and that'll give you how many calories you've burned in the day. Now, if you've burned only like 2,600 in a day, and you have 2,500 calories allowance, if you stay in your allowance, you're going to have minus 100 calories, which means you're going to be burning that fat, not necessarily quickly. And the recommended deficit for healthy weight loss is around about 500 calories a day. So if you can get in that deficit of minus 500 calories a day, that'll probably equate to around about a 1 to 2 pound loss a week. Sometimes it'll be more, sometimes it'll be less. It all depends on the person, the body, and the activity. But yeah, that's ultimately the way you've got to go with it. And I found that when I kept this app early on, I was astounded how quickly the actual weight came off, because I no longer had this maintenance. I was keeping myself fat by eating all this food, and the second I stopped it, it just came off. And it's bizarre how simple and how sensible it all is when you think about it. And yet, for me, most definitely, for years and years, it just didn't twig. I just kind of blissfully ignored it, realistically. And yeah, I think that is the way to go. And if you're going to start dieting or your healthy lifestyle, I'm going to have a follow-on video, hopefully, to this, which will be getting started. Other than that, I think we're probably done in terms of... no. My diet app that I use, it's got a terrible name. As for a Viking-y type guy trying to use this app, it doesn't sound particularly good. But the app I use, in case anyone's interested, is My Fat Secret. It is available on Google, on iPhone, and is also on Windows Phone. Because we don't have apps on Windows Phone, very rarely. But yeah, I found that to be a really good app. There are other apps you can get, like MyFitnessPal, the Fitbit app. I think there's a Microsoft Fitness. That I've had a look at Fitbit and I've had a look at MyFitnessPal. Both of those seem pretty similar to My Fat Secret, to be honest. They're all much for muchness, realistically. I've just found that My Fat Secret has been easy to navigate, and once you get using it, it's a lot easier to input your regular food and things like that, and you can save meals. I found it really, really good. But by all means, go out there, find something that works for you. And if you have any questions related to diet or the apps I use, or food diaries in general, please just smash it in a comment below. And if not, if you have another question about anything else, please feel free to ask. And in the meantime, I hope this has been useful. Be your own island. Hello,